Whoa, whoa, na 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 na, yeah.
What's up, my beautiful people?
Yeah.
Welcome to In the Public Ear,
I just step into a new season. The trouble that came up on me, they press me
the podcast that explores the relationship between journalism
deep in, rise up my story.
and the audiences it serves.
The praise, a lot of glory. I feel your favor, me know. Oh, I feel your
I'm your host, Johnoy J. Davis,
I feel your favor,
and today
Lord. I feel your blessing.
we're taking an in-depth look at a question that affects how we engage with the world.
My story celebrating now. I'm living in the glory, so me waving now. The Father change my story
A little bit later,
now.
we'll open the WhatsApp lines
Eyes have never seen, no man has ever.
so you can respond to the questions of today.
If we follow his word is the truth, so that is the way I live it.
And the question at the top of this program is,
Not down positive, I feel the favor and
do we truly trust the news we consume?
feel the blessing coming down on me. I feel the favor on me.
Today's program is going to be very informative.
Feel the blessing coming down. It come down just like a flood. So I am waving now,
But before we get to all the information,
celebrating now.
let's just enjoy this one.
Glory, so me waving now.
Favor on me,
Change my story,
Johnoy J. Davis.
I'm living in the glory. This is a season of breakthrough. Healing, favor, and joy too. The Father tell me if he call you, him know the things that
Yes, sir.
do. No matter what you are feeling, the children bread is healing. Press right up to the ceiling. If God word you believe it, favor on me now. Oh, I feel the blessing coming down on me. I feel the favor, Jesus. I feel the blessing coming down. It come down just like a flood. So I am waving now,
Jesus changing my story.
celebrating now. I'm
Living in the... What's your story?
living now.
This is mine.
Story celebrating now. I'm living in the glory. Oh, na 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 na, yeah. Oh na 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 na, yeah.
Yes, sir. Jesus changed my story. I know you enjoy that one, but we got to get to the meat of the matter. In a world flooded with headlines and tweets and breaking news, distinguishing fact from misinformation can be challenging. Today, we'll examine research, survey data, and the lived experiences of news consumers to understand what shapes trust in journalism. Now, this trust that we speak about can be really complex. Recent studies by the Pew Research Center shows that only 36% of US adults say they trust most news most of the time, while 58% say they trust it altogether. Among young adults, this number is even more alarming. Trust is even lower, with just 28% reporting high confidence in traditional news outlets. In a survey conducted among students and community members, it was revealed that 40% often questions the accuracy of news items they see online, while 30% rely on social media first before consulting news websites, and 30% prioritize traditional outlets like CNN, NBC, or NPR. As I said before, the WhatsApp lines are open and you've been responding, you've been sharing your feedback on the question, do you trust the news you consume? And we're going to share those responses right now. First up, we have Marsha Brown, who says, honestly, I trust it, but only after I double check it. My first reaction is always, this better not be fake. Next, we have Greg Webster, who says, I don't fully trust the news. I feel like every channel has an angle, so I try to read multiple sources and piece things together. That's smart. Joe Collins, I can't lie. I really don't watch the news. If it's important, it's gonna find me on Instagram or TikTok anyway. Really, Joe? Come on up, brother. Now, Miss Elizabeth Green, this is actually funny. She says, if it didn't come from at least 3 different pages and one auntie on WhatsApp, I'm not believing it. So 4 different persons, 4 different perspectives, but there's one common theme that resonates with all 4. These people do not trust the news 100%. There is some sort of reservation that's in there. Audiences evaluate credibility in many ways. The survey data shows that the top factors students and community members consider include accuracy, transparency, reputation, and awareness of bias. Many participants noted that social media complicates this process. One person even explained that they often scroll quickly, intending to verify later, but sometimes never return to check the original source. So we can clearly see that trust is fragile and misinformation spreads faster than verification can keep up. During breaking news events, many young adults admit to initially believing unverified reports, even if they confirm the facts later. Very, very interesting statistics. We have so much more information to share, but right now we're going to take a quick note from our sponsors. Support for this podcast comes from St. Stephen African Methodist Episcopal Church, whose commitment to community storytelling inspires conversations like this one. Let's keep going. It's interesting to see how quickly trust can shift. One moment, a headline feels credible, and the next, it raises questions. That uncertainty shapes how audience engage with news every day. So, on the WhatsApp line, I asked a follow-up question. How do you know if a story is real or fake? So one person said that the first thing I do is I check the comments. If everybody is arguing, I know I need to fact check. Another person shared that I look at the source. If it's a page I've never heard of with a dramatic headline, I am already suspicious. The next person said, sometimes I just believe it at first, especially if it sounds urgent. Then later I realize it wasn't even accurate. And another response kept it real. This person said, if it looks too wild to be true, I assume it is, unless it's confirmed rather by a verified page. These responses are interesting. But the reactions point to a deeper issue. The speed of information often prioritizes engagement over accuracy. And I think I did a paper a couple months ago where I looked at clickbait journalism and how widespread it has become. There's a particular page. I can't name the page because I don't want to get in trouble, but it's on YouTube. It's a page that I follow, because it gives me a lot of soccer updates from across the world. But there are times when I'll see a headline on the thing and I'll just know that you're doing this just for the clicks. And as soon as I click on the thing, I realize that the story has nothing to do with the headline at all. And so I understand why consumers are so skeptical when it comes on to like the news and believing what they are seeing, especially on social media. Social media amplifies content quickly, even when details are still emerging. At the same time, perceived biases play a role. Outlets such as CNN or NBC are often judged through political or ideological lens, regardless of the reporting itself. Misinformation, manipulated images, and misleading headlines all contribute to growing skepticism. Survey results indicate that many people believe news organizations sometimes exaggerate stories to capture attention. And I don't need to talk about that anymore because I just spoke about the YouTube page that I follow. You know what I mean? And how they exaggerate stories just so that people will click on that thing. But I digress. We're gonna keep going. We gonna move forward. But before we do that, a brief word from our sponsors. The Edward Waters University Concert Choir continues to amplify voices in the community, reminding us that representation matters in every space, including journalism. So, I posted another question on the WhatsApp line that reads, do you think news organizations are biased? The first responder said yes, but I think some try harder than others to be fair. It depends on who's reporting. The next person said everything is biased to some extent. The key is whether they're honest about it. The third person said with a laugh, at this point, I just assume there's some bias and try to read between the lines. That's interesting. And the fourth person said, I think bias shows up more in what they choose not to report, not just what they say. Now that's powerful right there. That's really powerful. I think bias shows up more in what they choose not to report, not just what they say. That's powerful. But rebuilding trust requires intentional action. Participants in the survey emphasized the importance of transparency, accountability, representation, and engagement. Audiences are more likely to trust journalism when reporters explain how information was gathered, correct mistakes openly, and reflect diverse perspectives. Even with skepticism, there is still an opportunity for journalism to rebuild trust by meeting audiences where they are and being clear about how stories are produced. The final question today is, what would make you trust the media more? And I want all my media practitioners to listen to these responses. The first responder says, show me how you got the information. Don't just tell me. Prove it. Another person shared, admit when you're wrong. That actually builds more trust than pretending to be perfect. The next participant said, I want to see more people who look like me and understand my community telling the stories. The next responder says, just be real. The moment it feels scripted or forced, I'm already tuning out. And I believe these requests are actually fair. You know what I mean? Our listeners are asking for transparency. They're asking for diversity. They're asking to be included in the process. And listen to this. Ethical reporting requires accuracy, fairness, and context. It also requires transparency, accountability, and a willingness to engage with audiences in meaningful ways. Ultimately, trust in journalism is about relationship. It develops when reporters communicate clearly, audiences engage critically, and both sides navigate the information landscape thoughtfully.
Oh, yeah. Oh, na, 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 yeah.
But that's all the time we have for you today.
Hey, oh, na, 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 na.
Thank you for listening to In the Public Ear.
Father, you did tell me I just step into a new season.
I'm your boy Johnoy J. Davis,
Press me down for a reason. So glad I never left.
and I hope this episode
That you a forget. The praise a lot.
has shed some light on what shapes public trust in journalism,
Feel a blessing coming down.
why it matters,
I feel a favor on me now.
and what steps can be taken to strengthen it moving forward.
It come just like a flood. So I am waving now. Jesus changed my story. Celebrating now. I'm living in the glory. So me wave.
And we're ending this program
Change my story.
the same way we began.
I'm living in the glory. Oh, eyes have never seen. No man has ever heard that. Plan that
Remember to like, comment, and share.
we follow his word.
Subscribe and click the notification bell.
That is the way I live him. Now go let me
Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend.
feel a favor on me now. Oh,
So until next time,
down on me. I feel
be good, walk good, and trust God.